My name is Shay and I'm a singer-songwriter from Englewood, New Jersey. When I first saw him, we didn't meet. We both happened to be at, it was like a tragic turn of events. A mutual friend of ours, his house had burnt down, so a bunch of friends of ours were throwing a benefit show. And so my best friend, who was a photographer, happens to know everybody on the scene. She went with me to the event and then was like, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so, and that's Kalil Johnson. And I didn't think anything of it because he was like off by himself. And at the time I was like really trying to build my network. So when I got home, like about a month or so later, I got one of those like suggestion follows from Twitter, like you should follow Kalil Johnson. So I started following him, and then he happened to make a tweet about the song Stairway to Heaven, and I'm a huge Led Zeppelin fan. So I was like, oh, what you know about that? And then he hit me up, he was like, well, what do you know about hip hop? And I was like, here's what I know. And he heard Keep Your Head, this song that I have over the Chief Rocker Lords of the Underground beat. And he was like, oh, okay. So then we decided to work together because he actually liked my music, and he came over and we had every intention of collaborating, and we ended up collaborating on a love scale.
My name is Kalil Johnson. I am a rap artist from Newark, New Jersey originally. Most of everything I do is either mostly in New York, so mostly in the New York scene. It was a benefit for a mutual friend of ours. His house had burned down, so it was kind of like, you know, more. I mean, it wasn't. It's kind of bad. It was a negative thing, you know, as far as like that. But you know, we were, you know, raising up the money for everything, and you know, rebuild and everything. So she happened to be there, and it's funny because I didn't really remember too well, you know, because a friend had introduced it, a mutual friend had introduced us. But I was kind of so out of it because I was, you know, I just lost my mother. That I was really just in bad spirits. So, but we actually technically met there.
I don't know what our technical first date was. But we definitely went to Veggie Heaven, which is one of my favorite vegan spots in Jersey, in Teaneck, and we definitely went there like our first several dates. I'll say that. I remember that part. Alright, so after we spoke initially on Twitter, we ended up taking it to Facebook, and we ended up on this tiny little chat for 3 hours worth, finding out that we had a ton of stuff in common. Like, we, obviously, you know, once I found out that his mother had passed away, like, you know, I've gone through that too, so we connected on that level. And then we found out that we both have siblings that are, like, practically the same exact age. We, you know, just had a million different little things in common, and it was just incredible. And we connected, and I mean, anybody that you can talk to on Facebook chat for 3 hours, like, there's something there. But I still didn't think that I knew right then and there that we had such a deep connection until we met. And then when we met, it was just like this undeniable chemistry. You know, we were just chilling watching Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and and just sparks were just flying because it really felt like I was sitting across from somebody that understood who I was.
I would say it was about maybe a few months after. You know, she met a lot of my family, and my cousins, my aunt. So my brother, he lives out in Tennessee, and that's like probably my closest family. Like I love my brother. Like he's pretty much bigger age gap, so we kind of helped raise me a little bit. But that's one family member I can't wait for her to meet. To tell the truth, there were a few hiccups with some family members, you know. To be honest, my dad, we actually haven't, because me and my dad aren't that close, so she hasn't actually really even technically met him. It's really weird because I can't even explain why. It's just he's just a really private person, I guess. So it's just like we haven't really been that close. So that's the one family member that probably, and my mother's no longer around, so. But we eat a lot. I mean, so we go out to eat a lot. So probably a lot of vegan restaurants. Also, we go to a lot of shows. I love going to shows. That's my main thing. I mean, music stuff. We want to go to more museums. So that's what we want to do. But usually shows and just like restaurants.
Well, I mean, besides like, you know, the stuff with our families, we share a lot of music interests in common. I found out that he's heavy into freestyle music, like 90s freestyle and house. And it's definitely a lot of music stuff that we have in common, and it's funny because that's also the same thing that we don't have in common. But our sense of humor is the same. We love a lot of the same favorite movies. I think it's important for couples to have stuff in common because you want that person that you can really just have a long conversation with about how much you love something. Like Michael Jackson is a big hot topic for us, so we'll just sit there and talk for hours about how much we admire his artistry, and sometimes you can gain new perspectives on things that you always loved but you didn't see through somebody else's eyes.
I don't think you can even have a successful relationship if you have nothing in common. I mean, I've had prior relationships where it's been that way, where it's like I had nothing, just trying to lie to myself and say that, okay, you know, I really like her, but nothing in common, and it didn't work out, you know. So now it's like it's easy. It's like, I mean, not to be cliche and say, but like she's like my friend, like regardless, you know. So
it's crucial. It's crucial to keep your own identity and your sense of self while you're with somebody else, because first of all, they fell in love with you. You know, there was no us when the person met you, so you have to maintain who you are. And the whole point of being in a relationship with somebody, in my opinion, is to grow together as individuals as well as a union. So I just think that it's super important, because you see all these stories about like you know, these women that lost themselves in the relationship and gave up everything they had for the guy, or vice versa. And it's really sad because I don't think in any sense you should lose yourself or compromise who you are for the other person. It's tragic when people end up doing that.
Like, for example, I had no interest in jazz music for me. None. And she was huge into it. I go to her house, she has like Miles Davis on the wall and Charlie Parker. And now I'm like really into jazz because she was into it. And I had no interest in it at all. I mean, none. So you could pick up things, you know, from someone in your relationship if they have, you know, I mean, it ends up becoming something in common. But, you know, you learn things. That's the positive from it. And also, it's just like, you know, variety, you know. Spice of life, that's what they say, right? So it's like, it's just more interesting, you know, because you can have like little arguments about things like, oh, I don't like musicals, you know, like, you know. Because she's really, I'm not really a big musical guy, you know, and she's super into them. But it's like, I don't make a big thing of it, like, you know, differences, it's fine, you know. I like punk rock, she doesn't. Yeah, you don't want the person in a relationship to be just like you, or, you know, try to be what they feel you want them to be, you know. You want them to be their own person. You want to fall in love with what they are, who they are, you know. So that's extremely important. Otherwise, you're just with, you know, with a robot. Who wants to be with that? Like now, it's a lot better. And like it was before, it was pretty much my fault as to why, you know, why it was so bad, just with my anger and everything. Now I've like really gotten it under control. And what we do is, if we have a disagreement, which happens a lot, any relationship will, I'll usually, if I'm mad, I'll give myself some time, like, you know, give me some time to chill, calm down, so we can just talk about it. And then we'll just give ourselves some time and then sit down and just really sit and discuss it, like understand each other's points. And if we still disagree, then it's like, all right, well, can we come to some kind of like, can we work it out, compromise somehow to not like, you know, or try the best to figure out a solution, you know? Like
a lot of times it'll even be small stuff that you'll have to sit there and analyze, like, is this really something that we really blew up into a huge argument over, and are there any underlying issues that we feel like the other person's not hearing? Like a lot of times when you're arguing, you just want to feel like you're validated by the other person, like you're not crazy to be feeling the way that you do. So when you get that validation from them, like, listen, I understand why this upset you, or, you know, what I said hurt you, something like that, you know, but I don't, you know, this is what I meant by it, or I just thought that I was saying it to help you, something, you know, anything along those lines. Like, we argue a lot over little stuff, important stuff, and then we'll also argue over differences as far as our approaches with music. Like that's another huge thing, because being that we're both in the industry and we both have similar goals as far as where we want our careers to end up, we don't necessarily have like a similar plan on how we each want to get there. And sometimes we'll be doing something that works for one of us, and we'll have to like respect that the other person like wants to try out things on their own. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's much healthier now the way that we argue.
Yeah, much healthier.
The cliche is that you can't be proud of being in your own culture if you're with somebody from a different culture. It's like, it makes no sense that you would, like, I'm not asking him to be less black being with me, and he's not asking me to be less Jewish or less of a woman. You know, it's just ridiculous. But yeah, so we get that a lot. And then there's also the cliche of like, oh, if she's with a black guy, then she must deep down really want to be black, or she, you know, it's just, they go on forever with the whole interracial thing. But the other cliche that we deal with is that he's bisexual. So we deal with that, not in as much of a direct way, because obviously it's not something that's on the forefront. Nobody would think that he's bisexual being that he's with me. But when he came out, he actually discovered it about himself while he was with me. Not that I drive that out of men, but but he, you know, it was something that we had discussed in the past. You know, like when you're getting to know somebody and you're asking those random ass questions. But he just touched upon, you know, feelings that he had in the past, but then had never acted on. And then through talking more with me and finally realizing that I wasn't just going to leave him if he came out to me, he eventually came out. And then I basically asked him, you know, like, is this something that you want to pursue? He said no, and that why would he want to go pursue it when he was happy in the relationship that he had? He just really wanted to be able to have the permission to be able to be open about it and be himself, and stand up for gay rights from a first-person perspective. So the cliches that we get with that is that, like, people will be like, oh, you should really, you know, just try to separate now so that you'll avoid him when he down the line wants to go be with a guy,
or you're actually gay. And
yeah,
you
you're gay, you don't know it yet,
and, you know, stuff like that. It's like, I think
yeah.
But that, I mean, that's like,
or like, how are the swinger parties that you guys go to?
Yeah.
Like,
like,
no, we
like
are in a monogamous relationship.
Yeah, like separate the orientation from like orientation doesn't mean lifestyle. You know?
Or what kind of kinky stuff does he
like,
act out on you that he can't do with a man? And I'm like,
I have the capacity
really?
to be in a relationship with either or, but with a woman. And I'm with Shay.
I would say you have to learn you have to really learn what respect is. Like, it's not even, it stems from respecting yourself, but it really is about like having the maturity and confidence to be with somebody else and to allow yourself to trust them. But you can't have that if you're not respecting who they are. Like, I feel like a lot of younger couples go through the whole, oh, she's going through my phone, or he wants to know all the passwords to all my stuff, and it's like, it's all speaking to deeper issues of mistrust, and trust isn't built without respect for the other individual.
Like I said, not to be corny or cliche, but probably when we decided to first make it official. That, because when we first met, I had no like real intention of being in a relationship at all. And I would say, what was like about a month?
It was 2 weeks.
2 weeks later, I was like, yeah, you know what, about that. I changed my mind. Yeah, so, but it's just like,
I want you to be my girl.
yeah, it's just like how it happened. I was just like,
in the Pathmark parking lot.
Yeah. Yeah, we were sitting talking about a show that I was about to do.
Were we in Kearney?
Yeah, in Kearney, New Jersey, yeah. I forgot about the town. Yeah, we were in Pathmark parking lot. So yeah, that's probably it. Like, that's probably the most. There's so many.
My cultural upbringing, with most of my family being involved in jazz music, and my mom being as open-hearted and welcoming as she was, meeting him, and especially nowadays with the Black Lives Matter movement, it helped me to really be able to empathize with him, with what he goes through. It's one thing to be in an interracial relationship, but it's another to really, like I said earlier, like validate what the person has to endure on a day-to-day basis, and to understand that they're not making it up, they're not exaggerating, you know. They could be discriminated against constantly, and it's important for them to be able to vent to you about what they're going through, and for you to understand why it's wrong.
I mean, as far as like this, you know, I mean, I grew up in Newark, New Jersey. The schools were not the most beautiful things in the world, you know, but my family, you know, one thing I could definitely say is my family was a good, like, you know, rock, and you know, to keep me on point, keep me out of trouble. You know, I was never really into that. Like, I was kind of more of a nerd, not really a nerd, but you know, yeah. So, I mean, if I gave into how my neighborhood was, I'd probably be locked up somewhere, or you know, still in that lifestyle, whatever. I sure would be making music, or if I would, it'd be different, a whole different scene, a whole different kind of thing, you know. So it's just that it would have never led to us beating, as far as like, you know, in our differences with culture and everything. It would have never led to it at all. I'd be in a whole different thing, a whole different lifestyle, you know. So, you know what? I would say the moment that I'm probably the most impressed, just like, wow, that's my girl. Honestly, when she's performing, when she's on stage, especially recently, because her stage performances have been like super A+ now. Like, got that full band back there, got that, you know, the background singers and they're killing it, and she's up there just like, bosh, just going in. I'm just like, wow, like we're gonna do this, like we're gonna do this together, like that's crazy. So I think that's when I'm just like, yo, I love you. Like, I mean, there's definitely other moments too, but that's probably, like, I would say number one.
He's, man, like, people say that people can't change, and we had it very tough in the beginning, like super tough, and Kalil has really proven to me how much somebody can change when they work hard enough, and he's grown like so much in just the 4 years that we've been together, and I've always loved who I knew he could be, and he's become that and exceeded my expectations in every way possible. I love that when I introduce him to somebody that they instantly come back to me like, oh, he's such a sweetheart, he's so handsome, and he's so charming, and he's so talented. That just makes me proud to be with him, you know?
So if there was a glue that your relationship was made out of, what would that be?
I would say, so the foundation would have to be a John Hughes film, and that's to keep us always nostalgic about how far we've come in this relationship, because that was the first film we saw was Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and then Planes, Trains, and Automobiles he watched. So I would say that was the foundation. Then I would say you add some like experimental vegan dishes in there.